BlackRock CEO Larry Fink says Bitcoin could revolutionize finance. A lot of people are starting to ask themselves why it is the CEO of BlackRock, this massive financial institution, is all of a sudden doing a turnaround and supporting Bitcoin. That one's kind of concerning, or I should say disconcerting. When there's talk of the U.S. losing its status as reserve currency, especially over the past several years, and now more so with BRICS nations launching a gold-backed currency, the idea that this guy's going to come out and be like, I care about people, and I think, they should listen. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say anything. Maybe not. Maybe what happens is, and again, I don't know, I'm not a finance guy, so don't take my advice for it. If the U.S. loses its status as the reserve currency, war breaks out. The dollar's going to fall to garbage. You're not going to be eating bread. You're going to be eating bugs and living in a pod. And that's what I wonder about all this. When they say you will own nothing and you will be happy, maybe what they're not, people think they're saying they're going to take the world from you. Maybe what they're really saying is when the war happens, you ain't getting none of this stuff no matter what you do. The food's going to be going to the soldiers, to the front line. Resources and everything will be straight into war. And what will you have? Worthless green pieces of paper. To be honest, digital numbers on a computer screen.
We'll see rationing all over again. During the Second World War, that was a reality. People could only consume so many resources regardless of their level of wealth because the government was saying, we need to use this rubber or fuel or food for the war effort.
So let me ask you guys what makes more sense. That powerful elites in Europe and the USA want you to eat bugs because of their ideology, or they were preparing you for eating bugs because ain't gonna be no food when war breaks out?
Well, I think it's a combination. I think that if your ideology is so corrupt and you hold human life so cheap, then it's inevitably going to be the case you'll make the sorts of reckless decisions that will result in your economy being destroyed and people ending up being plunged into warfare, which will destroy their resources and lower their quality of life.
I don't think that it needs to be either or. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I think that there are ample reasons for ideologically possessed people that are in positions of power to say, look, you shouldn't be eating steak. You shouldn't be eating all this beef. You should, and red meat and stuff. You should be eating something that's simpler and something that's better for the planet. Because there are people that truly believe that the world is overpopulated and that we need to significantly decrease the number of people on Earth because we keep devouring the resources and we can't produce enough resources and food to sustain the population that we have. And while I don't believe that, I do believe that there are probably a considerable number of people in positions of power that are capable of doing something about it and actually affecting populations and policy that could significantly lower the population of the Earth. And I think that the global warming alarmism that you see is the most likely method. So things like, you can't have cows because they are bad for the environment and these bugs are better for the environment are compelling arguments to people that are already ideologically kind of aligned or are used to getting beat down with the world is ending because of climate change kind of thing. So I don't think that it needs to be one or the other. I think that there are multiple reasons why people in positions of power would want to say, look, you can't live the life that you've been living and you need to roll back your standard of living.
Do you guys remember that there was a document that went viral from some security contractor that claimed the U.S. population would be reduced by like 60%?
We talked about this. I never remembered seeing that document.
Because it was erased from everywhere.
Based on what, though?
So we don't know. Some kind of defense contractor put together a report talking about future plans, and it listed the populations of many countries as having been reduced by like 30 to 40% or something like that, or more. And the document was deleted. I don't think we ever got a real explanation for it. I'm not saying it means it's true or anything. I hate conspiracy theories. So, for all we know, they were creating a hypothetical scenario in the event of war or something like that. But then the archives all got deleted. And now it's really hard to find any information. It is as if it has been erased from the internet. It makes you wonder about what's really being talked about behind the scenes. Because, look, for all we know, Occam's razor suggests this is just a nonsense document. Some random guy said the population would go down or something like this. But as we see more and more signs of major conflict escalating, like the cluster munitions thing is a big deal. There's fears of the Zaporizhzhia plant being blown up. I believe it's the Zaporizhzhia one, right? That's where they're saying that the Russians have lined explosives all around it or something like that.
I don't know.
You get propaganda on both sides, and you got to figure out who you want to trust. But isn't it convenient for all of us, as Norm Macdonald pointed out, that the good guys won every war? Keep that in mind
Thank goodness.
as you consider the news that's coming out today with all of these major conflict stories. But also, I think it's important to think about. I talked about this during COVID, and I don't know if we were talking about in the context of war, but what is the one thing that is guaranteed that COVID did? It got people to move out of cities.
Yeah.
It decentralized our economy. You had everybody working from the office. If that office got destroyed for some reason, let's say everybody's working at an office and the fire breaks out and people get trapped inside. That company's gone. Let's say you push everybody to remote work and get them out of cities. That office gets just caught in a fire. Your company still exists. Digital economy. People are able to communicate, facilitate, and keep working. So it made me wonder when we saw COVID and the main result was large exodus of major economic power from large cities. Decentralizing the U.S. economy sure was helping us prepare, whether intentionally or not, for a major conflict. If New York were to get nuked now, our economy would still function to a great degree because many of these people who run these systems have left and they've spread out even. So it's harder to target. Pre-COVID, with all of the big heads of industry in San Francisco, in California, in New York, many in Chicago, a single nuclear weapon, your economy's gone. Post-COVID, not so much. They're not going to be able to target the CEOs in all these different random places. Even celebrities and actors are moving all over the place. They're not in the same place anymore.
The people running these blue states are secret heroes. They're trying to get everybody out of the cities.
Russia still is the country that has the most nuclear weapons in the world.
Are their nukes as powerful as ours, though? Like, is
I
it
don't know.
1-to-1?
I'm not 100% sure the yield.
I think they're more
wise.
powerful.
No.
Yeah.
But they
have the Satan II,
yeah.
tidal wave bomb or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Some of them, in fact, the most powerful nuclear weapon ever built was by the Soviets.
Tsar bomb.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
And they what was it? Only ever used at a quarter yield or something? Or
Half.
Half.
It was
Yeah.
100 megatons was the design, and they only used 50. I think is the.
And the bomber that dropped it fell 2 kilometers from the sky in the shockwave because then it recovered.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
That's terrifying.
I mean,
Imagine what they have now. I don't think it's nuclear weapons. I think they're way beyond this stuff. I mean, we're talking about a weapon from 100 years ago.
Yeah,
A 100-year-old bomb. Come on, they got something else already.
for sure.
Yeah, antimatter weapons. How much you want to bet they have antimatter bombs?
Well, I mean, look, we know that different countries have been creating bioweapons, and we just know this because one was released. Now, Sir Francis Boyle, who was the author of the American implementing legislation for the Bioweapons Convention, has stated as a lawyer that these are, if anything made with gain-of-function research, is classified as a bioweapon. So that's not even like a conspiracy theory or a hot take. That is the author of the legislation that governs these affairs, specifically stating these are bioweapons, like anything made through gain-of-function research. And we know gain-of-function research is happening. So who knows what's been created? Who knows the kinds of ugly things that have been engineered by scientists that could be unleashed onto the public at any moment?
So we learned during COVID that Asians were more susceptible to the virus because they have more ACE2 receptors. Think about something like that. We know that this particular group of people has more of one type of receptor in their lungs. Therefore, they may be more susceptible to a virus. Now, think about how they're going to make bioweapons.
Oh, boy.
Yep.
They're going to be like, hey, this particular group of people is susceptible to this particular thing. And then one day, everyone in that country is very sick. That's bioweapons. And there will be collateral damage.
Yeah, well, no, we also know, like, based on the part of the world you're in and a lot of genetic factors, you can be more or less susceptible to diseases. This is the entire point that gets brought up anytime anyone wants to discuss, like, colonization and the conquistadors, the fact that the Spanish were totally immune to the diseases they were bringing over, so they didn't even know they had them. Someone could theoretically engineer viruses and disease that would be more likely to wreak havoc on populations of different people genetically. That's terrifying.
I always get and I don't know how realistic this is because I have no idea about how bugs are engineered or anything. But the idea of Ebola with like a 3-week incubation period or 2-week incubation period.
An airborne Ebola.
Yeah, just spreads around and it takes weeks before you just start puking and bleeding out your eyes, and you're contagious the entire time. That the idea of that just terrifies the absolute crap out of me because that would run wild through the whole country.
And then you would have basically everyone in this country demanding lockdowns.
Oh yeah,
That's true.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
We did talk about this too. I think, Ian asked the question when we were like, oh, we're all against lockdowns. He was like, what if it was an airborne Ebola? And it's like, that's a tough question because now you're looking at people puking up their organs and stuff in the middle of the street. But the issue is still, you have a right to choose if you want to take that risk.
Well, but there's another point here. I think a lot of the argument against, like, vaccinations or forced vaccinations or lockdowns or whatever it is, they aren't necessarily axiomatic arguments. They're questions of whether factors are such that it justifies it. So if you did have an Ebola, if there was an Ebola that had like a 99% transmission rate and 99% mortality rate, 100% you lock things down.
Except you have to trust the government. That's true.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm saying if that really is the case and you really have those numbers, of course people are going to say, yeah, do it.
But that's the thing. It's not even going to be a question, because if you got like people like in mass just like puking and dying in the streets and stuff like that, people are gonna voluntarily be like, get the F out of here, get away from my house, I'm not going out. It would be a lockdown that was completely voluntary. The police and the only people that would be going to work would be like doctors that actually could do something. And if even, because a lot of times when you get to something, if you get to something that dramatic, there'd be a lot of people that are just like, I'm staying home with my family.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. It would mostly be voluntary. My point is simply that when you get to a certain point of transmission and mortality with the disease, lockdowns are going to be more or less justifiable.
What will destroy the world? Incubation period of 2 weeks, airborne, high mortality, and a disease that takes 4 to 6 weeks to kill you. So escalating degrees of severity. Let's talk about the absolute, worst case scenario, because if we're talking about actual engineered bioweapons, these things are going to be horrifying. We're talking about a virus that is airborne, transmissible when a person is asymptomatic, a couple of weeks incubation period, high mortality rate. It would be impossible to stop unless everyone locked their doors and no one did anything ever again.
What are the chances of a government actually trying to build that virus?
I think 100%.
Yeah. We may have it now. They're not, going to tell us what's going on, but
why wouldn't they do it? Look at nuclear weapons. They can wipe out a whole city with a single MIRV. They can wipe out multiple cities with a MIRV. 12 warheads in one ICBM. Yeah. I hate these acronyms. Let's try this again. 12 warheads in one multiple independently targeting re-entry vehicles, and that's what a MIRV is. It's an intercontinental ballistic missile. You'd say like MIRV and ICBM, and people are like, I have no idea what you just said. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's tough. Are we sitting here spinning our wheels and wasting our time arguing about culture war nonsense?
No.
When you go to the highest
No.
When you go to the highest levels and you see this is the case. Let's talk about the realm of domestic politics in this regard. If Donald Trump's worldview is really, let's not have the war that destroys the planet, let's shore up our borders, protect the United States, bring back manufacturing, and become self-sufficient because the long fall is coming. And the alternative is, no, let's go all out, take over the world, and destroy BRICS by any means necessary so that we can stay on top of the world. Which do you choose? I think the Trump angle is the better one.
Well, absolutely. Not just practically speaking, but morally speaking. Not only would there would be so much bloodshed and lost life if we tried doing something like that, but it assumes that other nations don't have the right to develop currencies while we're debasing ours. It assumes that other nations should be forced into dollar slavery and have to hold this asset, this currency, while we're abusing it and showing them we don't respect it ourselves.
Here's the challenge. The Chinese Communist Party is pretty dang evil.
They are very evil. And absolutely.
So there's the other argument of, if we just decide, you know what, we're going to close our doors to a great degree, not completely, but we're going to bolster the American economy and we're going to focus on ourselves. China's going to keep expanding. They're not going to stop.
Well, it depends. Firstly, China does get a lot of money from the United States just with respect to the business that we do with them. So if we just started doing everything domestically, it would be painful for us, but I also think it would be very painful for them. I'll also add that if we were to go to war with China over human rights abuses, if there was like a real legitimate reason for us to go to war, if you went through all the tenets of just war theory and they all lined up, then yeah, but that's a different question than just going to war with them over them wanting to use a currency that isn't ours.
Okay.
The justification is a massive part of it. Yeah. Yeah.
I think everyone was just in agreement with you, Seamus.
Yeah, good. I like that. Perfect. Shimcast, IRL. Here we are.
There you go. I don't know. The whole
the question is, what does a regular family do?
Yeah. Well, That's a very good question. You've said this on the show before, but at the risk of sounding like a broken record, I'll say it again for you. I believe it's a good idea for people to get out of blue areas, generally speaking, not even necessarily because of this question, but just the fact that blue states and blue cities end up having really bad policies. There are going to be a lot of people there who are like not a good influence for you and your family. So I'll put that out there. And then, you know, it's recommended by federal agencies, even in the United States, that you should have some emergency food stored up. I think people should do that. Just try to live as moral a life as possible. People aren't going to be surprised to hear this from me, because this is the advice I'm going to give in every situation. But get close to Jesus Christ, really get right with God, live a moral life. And then if something horrible ends up happening, if America ends up being destroyed, well, you lived a good life. You did the right thing. You formed the proper relationship with the truth.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.